The late afternoon sun spilled golden light through the tall windows of Carver's Fresh Market, a bustling grocery store in the heart of Willow Creek, a mid-sized town in North Carolina. Shoppers moved with purpose, their carts rattling over polished floors, while the scent of fresh bread mingled with the hum of conversation. Officer Marcus Tate, still in his navy blue uniform after a long shift, stepped inside. He wasn't here to shop, not really. His plan was simple: grab a bottle of iced tea and head home. But Marcus, a 5-year veteran of the Willow Creek Police Department, carried his badge like a second skin. Even off duty, his eyes scanned for trouble, his instincts always on high alert. As he navigated past the produce section, his gaze landed on a woman standing near the frozen foods aisle. She was in her mid-30s, dressed in a plain gray hoodie and jeans, her dark hair tied back in a loose bun. She held a phone in one hand, her thumb scrolling slowly, but her eyes weren't on the screen. They darted across the aisle, tracking an elderly couple picking out ice cream, then flicking toward a young man grabbing a pizza from the freezer. She wasn't shopping. No cart, no basket, just a stillness that felt out of place in the market's rhythm. Marcus's pulse quickened. Something about her didn't sit right. He adjusted his posture, shoulders squared, and strode toward her with the confidence of someone who'd made dozens of stops like this. His boots clicked against the tile, drawing a few glances from shoppers. Stopping a few feet from her, just close enough to assert presence, he cleared his throat. "Ma'am, you with store security?" His tone carried an edge, less question and more accusation. The woman, Agent Lena Carver of the FBI, looked up slowly. Her hazel eyes met his, calm and unblinking, assessing him in a way that made Marcus shift his weight. "No," she said simply, her voice steady but quiet, like someone used to diffusing tension without raising her own. Marcus frowned. Too calm. Too controlled. "You've been standing here a while, watching people. Not shopping. Mind telling me what you're doing?" His hand rested lightly on his duty belt, a habit from years of patrols. Lena slipped her phone into her pocket, her movements deliberate. "I'm in the middle of something, officer. You're interfering." Her words weren't sharp, but they carried weight, like a warning wrapped in professionalism. "Interfering?" Marcus's voice rose slightly, enough to turn a few heads. A teenager with a basket of snacks slowed down, pretending to check a label. "I'm doing my job. You're the one standing here, looking suspicious. No cart, no groceries, just watching. Care to explain?" Lena's expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed slightly. "My name is Lena Carver, Special Agent, FBI. My badge is in my jacket. I'm not here to explain myself to you, but I will if it keeps this from escalating." She kept her hands visible, palms open, a gesture of de-escalation. Marcus's jaw tightened. FBI? Convenient. He'd heard that line before, people flashing fake IDs to dodge trouble. "Let's see the badge," he said, his tone skeptical. Lena reached slowly into her jacket, producing a leather folder. She flipped it open, revealing a gold shield and ID. Marcus glanced at it, but his skepticism held firm. "Anyone can buy a badge online. You got anything with a signature? A supervisor I can call?" Before Lena could respond, another figure approached, a man in his early 40s, wiry, with a sharp jawline and a black windbreaker. Agent Javier Ruiz, Lena's partner, had been watching from the bakery section. He stepped forward, his presence cutting through the growing tension like a blade. "Officer, you're out of line," Javier said, his voice low but firm. "Special Agent Javier Ruiz, FBI. You're compromising a federal operation. Step back." Marcus blinked, caught off guard by the second agent. The air in the aisle felt heavier now, the hum of the store fading as shoppers lingered, some pulling out phones. A woman with a toddler in her cart whispered to another shopper. The manager, a middle-aged man in a green vest, hovered near the registers, unsure whether to intervene. "Two feds, no uniforms, no heads up to local PD?" Marcus said, his voice laced with disbelief. "You expect me to buy that you're just, what, shopping for justice? You're casing the place, and I'm supposed to let it slide?" Javier's eyes darkened, but his tone stayed even. We're tracking a suspect in a federal fraud case. Months of work, and you're about to unravel it because you saw someone standing still and decided to play hero. Marcus bristled at the word hero. I'm doing my job, he snapped. You're the one sneaking around, no coordination, no nothing. If you're feds, where's your suspect? Show me. Lena scanned the aisle, her expression tightening. They're gone, she said quietly. Thanks to you. She tapped her earpiece, muttering, Control, this is Echo 4. Surveillance compromised. Suspect likely exited during local interference. Marcus's stomach twisted. The weight of her words hit him, but his pride pushed back. You're blaming me? I saw someone suspicious and acted. That's what we do. No, Javier said, stepping closer. You saw what you wanted to see. You didn't ask questions. You assumed. That's not policing, that's ego. The words landed like a punch. Marcus felt the eyes on him, shoppers, phones, the manager, all watching. A young woman by the frozen pizzas muttered, he just got called out. A soft chuckle rippled through the crowd. Marcus's ears burned, but he doubled down. I want names, full names. I'm filing a report. Special Agent Lena Carver, Lena said, unyielding. Special Agent Javier Ruiz, Javier added. Charlotte Field Office. You want our supervisor's number, we'll give it. But you're writing a report, we are too. Marcus scribbled their names, his hand shaking slightly. The crowd was dispersing, but the tension lingered. He stepped back, trying to salvage his authority. This isn't over, he muttered, turning toward the exit. But as he walked away, Lena's voice followed him, it's not about you, officer. It's about the work you disrupted. Outside, Marcus leaned against his cruiser, the iced tea forgotten in his hand. The encounter replayed in his mind every word, every glance. He'd been so sure, so certain he was in the right. But the sinking feeling in his chest told him otherwise. He'd misread the situation, and now a federal case was in jeopardy because of him. For the first time in years, Marcus wondered if his badge was leading him or blinding him. Marcus drove home in silence, the radio off, the hum of the engine his only company. The encounter at Carver's Fresh Market gnawed at him. He'd been doing his job, hadn't he? Spotting suspicious behavior, stepping in, it was what he was trained for. But the agent's words echoed, you saw what you wanted to see. The accusation stung because it wasn't entirely wrong. Back at his apartment, Marcus tossed his keys on the counter and sank into the couch. His uniform felt heavy, like it was pressing him into the cushions. He thought about calling his sergeant, but what would he say? That he'd confronted 2 FBI agents and botched their operation? That he'd assumed a woman standing in an aisle was a threat because, why? Because she wasn't shopping? Because she looked too focused? He pulled out his notepad, staring at the names, Lena Carver, Javier Ruiz. He could still see Lena's calm, piercing gaze, Javier's quiet authority. They hadn't raised their voices, hadn't needed to. They'd schooled him without breaking a sweat, and the worst part was the crowd at shoppers, phones, whispers, watching it all unfold. Marcus wasn't used to being the one on display. The next morning, he reported to the Willow Creek Police Department, his report half-written. Sergeant Carla Hayes, a no-nonsense veteran with 20 years on the force, called him into her office. Heard you had an interesting evening, she said, leaning back in her chair. Her eyes, sharp but not unkind, studied him. Marcus shifted in his seat. I thought I was stopping a potential crime, Sarge. Woman in the market, acting off, watching people. Turned out she was FBI. So was her partner. I misjudged it. Carla raised an eyebrow. Misjudged how? I thought she was casing the place. No cart, no groceries, just standing there. I asked questions, but they said I was interfering. Said I blew their surveillance. Carla tapped her pen on the desk. Did you ask questions, Marcus? Or did you assume and then ask? He opened his mouth, then closed it. I asked, he said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. Carla leaned forward.
You've got good instincts, Tate.
5 years, no major screw-ups.
But instincts aren't enough. You've got to check them against reality. You walked into a federal op and didn't even consider you might be wrong. That's not instinct, that's tunnel vision.
Marcus nodded, his throat tight. They said their suspect got away because of me.
Carla sighed. Feds called this morning.
Their supervisor, Agent Shields, filed a complaint.
Not a big one, but enough to make us take a look. They're not out for blood, but they want accountability. You're writing that report, and it better be honest. I will, Marcus said. But what happens now? Now. Carla leaned back. You learn. You grow. You don't let your badge make you think you're infallible. And you make this right.
Marcus spent the day finishing his report, every word feeling like a confession. He detailed the encounter, his assumptions, the agent's responses, and the moment he realized he'd cost them their suspect. When he submitted it, Carla read it silently, then nodded.
Good start. But writing it down isn't enough. You need to understand why it happened. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Lena's badge, Javier's steady gaze, the shopper's phones.
He'd always thought of his badge as a shield, protecting the community.
But what if it was also a lens, distorting how he saw people?
The question kept him up, and by morning, he knew he needed answers, not just for his report, but for himself. He reached out to the Charlotte FBI field office, leaving a message for Agents Carver and Ruiz.
To his surprise, Lena called back.
Officer Tate, she said, her voice professional but not cold.
What do you need?
I want to understand what I did wrong, Marcus said.
Not just the report.
I want to know how I can avoid this happening again.
There was a pause.
Then Lena said, meet us tomorrow, 9 a.m., at the field office.
Bring an open mind. The Charlotte FBI field office was a sleek, modern building with glass walls and a quiet hum of purpose. Marcus arrived early, his uniform traded for a plain button-up shirt.
He felt out of place, like a student called to the principal's office. Lena and Javier met him in a small conference room, both in business casual, their badges clipped to their belts.
Thanks for meeting me, Marcus said, his voice steady but nervous. I messed up. I know that. But I want to learn.
Lena studied him for a moment, then nodded.
That's a start. Let's walk through it. Over the next hour, they broke down the incident.
Lena explained their operation. They'd been tracking a suspect, Carla Vega, who ran a sophisticated identity theft ring, stealing personal data from small businesses like Carver's Fresh Market.
Vega was cautious, blending into crowds, using burner phones and fake IDs.
They'd been moments from catching her in a handoff when Marcus intervened.
You didn't just interrupt, Javier said. You shifted the dynamic. Vega saw a uniform, sensed heat, and bolted.
We had her on camera, but she was gone before we could react.
Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. I thought I was protecting people. I saw you, Agent Carver, and I made a snap judgment. You profiled, Lena said, not unkindly.
You saw a woman standing still, focused, and assumed she was trouble.
You didn't consider she might be working, just like you. Marcus winced. How do I stop doing that? Javier leaned forward. Start with curiosity, not certainty. Ask questions to understand, not to confirm what you already think. And listen, really listen, to the answers. They shared more about their work, the months of planning, the stakes of their case.
Marcus listened, absorbing not just their words but their approach, measured, collaborative, focused on the mission over ego. By the end, he felt a mix of shame and determination.
I want to make this right, he said. If there's a way to help, I'm in. Lena exchanged a glance with Javier. There might be, she said. Vega's still out there. We're resetting surveillance.
If you're serious, we can loop you in on our terms.
Marcus didn't hesitate. I'm serious. The next week, Marcus joined a joint task force with the FBI, shadowing Lena and Javier on a new surveillance operation. He wasn't leading, wasn't calling shots, just observing, learning.
They taught him how to blend in, how to read a scene without jumping to conclusions. He watched Lena move through a crowded mall, her presence invisible yet alert. He saw Javier coordinate with local PD, ensuring no one stepped on their toes. One evening, after a long day of tracking leads, Marcus sat with them at a diner. "I thought I knew what policing was," he admitted. "But I was so focused on being right, I forgot what it's for." Lena smiled faintly. "It's not about being right. It's about doing right. You're getting there." 3 weeks later, the task force got a break. Vega's burner phone pinged at a gas station outside Raleigh. Lena and Javier mobilized, with Marcus in tow as a liaison with local PD. This time, he wasn't acting on instinct, he was part of the plan. At the gas station, Lena and Javier set up in an unmarked van, while Marcus coordinated with local officers to secure the perimeter without drawing attention. He moved carefully, briefing the team on the need for discretion. "No uniforms in sight," he told them. "We don't spook her." Inside the van, Lena monitored a live feed from the gas station's cameras. Vega was there, buying a coffee, her movements casual but calculated. Javier whispered into his radio, "She's meeting someone. Green jacket, by the pumps." Marcus watched from a distance, his heart pounding. This was his chance to make things right, not just for the agents, but for himself. When Vega's contact arrived, the team moved in. Lena and Javier approached silently, badges ready, while Marcus ensured local officers stayed back until signaled. The arrest was clean. Vega and her contact were cuffed without incident, their burner phones and fake IDs confiscated. As Vega was led to a transport van, she glanced at Marcus, her expression unreadable. He didn't flinch. Back at the field office, Lena clapped Marcus on the shoulder. "You did good," she said. "You listened. You learned." Javier nodded. "You didn't just follow orders, you understood why they mattered." Marcus exhaled, a weight lifting. "I almost cost you this case. I'm sorry for that. But I'm grateful you gave me a chance to make it right." The twist came later, when Marcus learned Vega had been watching him during the gas station sting. She'd recognized him from the market, assumed he was a loose cannon, and let her guard down, thinking she could slip past a distracted cop. Her miscalculation, underestimating Marcus's growth, was her downfall. As Marcus drove home that night, his badge felt lighter. It wasn't just a shield now, it was a tool, one he'd learned to wield with humility and purpose. He'd been schooled, not just by the agents, but by his own willingness to change. And in that lesson, he found something greater than pride, a path to becoming the officer he was meant to be.